Team, if there is one thing that really highlights our own hypocrisy in the military, other than or greater than the PRT after action review, it's sponsorship. Welcoming new soldiers and warfighters into our ranks and our formations, into our teams. When you think about that PTAAR, we have been saying the exact same thing for too long. And then once we find ourselves into a place, in a position to be able to do something about what we thought could have been done better, we do the same old thing that we were complaining about before. Like this, it has to stop. And you can't wait for somebody else to make the decisions of how to get things better. You have to do what is right by yourself and those who are in your charge. And if you find yourself, in the position of being a sponsor, if you complained about your sponsorship when you arrive to a unit and you don't do anything better, then you need to own that crap, man. And we need to do better. So I want to begin by telling you that there is one person ultimately who owns everything about sponsorship from beginning to end. Yes, it's a commander's program, but ultimately at the end of the day, I have found in my experience that if the first sergeant doesn't promote a quality sponsorship program and doesn't demand excellence in this area, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be a check in the box. And you leave some horror stories down in the comments below about, sponsorships that have not worked out well, or by all means, share some quality lessons learned of where sponsorship did you or somebody that you know right. And I want to talk through sponsorship with as much fidelity as I think we can, without thinking too much about what the book says. Although it's important, I want to talk about practical applications of sponsorship. Yes, you should assign a sponsor who's in the same grade or equal. They should be of the same gender. They should be married if they're married, single if they're single. All of these things are all those things are important. You can't always fit all of those things right in a row. But as much as we can, we need to try to make these things right, because sponsorship should help somebody integrate into a new location, whether they're married, they're single. We had this whole family or individual who's coming into an area that they've probably never been at before. That's one of the best things about the military, right? You get to travel to all of these different places. So if you have somebody who's going to, say, Hawaii, and they have kids, or they have other things that are going on in their life, maybe they're a single parent, they have needs that they need to try to get met. If you have people that are going to Germany or Korea or Japan, or even throughout the United States, like we all have, there's nothing much more stressful than the PCS move. So if we can help alleviate some of their concerns, if we can answer some of their questions about the area, about the unit, about what we have going on, I think ultimately what you're going to see is people who are wanting to join this organization before they even get there, right? Does that make sense? And I think it's too easy to do. I developed a welcome packet when I was a diamond wearing first sergeant, which I did for about 5 years. And it was about 7 pages. I had stuff in there about the organization, about our history, about training plans that were coming up, about the local area, some stuff that is it related to a bucket list, right? Here's some things that you need to try to do while you're here, because as awesome as it is that we get to travel so much in the military, the odds of ever being able to go back on your own dime are slim to nil. So if you get to a place like Italy or Germany, if you don't take advantage of that, you're kind of robbing yourself from the experience. If you come up here to the Pacific Northwest and you don't go to the Olympics, if you don't go to Rainier, if you don't go to Seattle, Seattle is something else. But some people enjoy, that urban life, and there are things up there that you need to go see if you're up here. But if you don't have all of this on the front end, or even while you get there, there's we're holding stuff back from folks that I don't think that we need to. What about schools? What about childcare? What about after school programs that may be out there? Some of these things, if you're single, you may not be able to answer these questions or even know what questions should be asked, right? And that's something that we can do as a sponsor. Like somebody coming in, that they're just this funnel who's in receive mode trying to figure everything out, but they don't always know the right questions to ask, right? If you're married, one of the first things that you're probably thinking about is, where do I need to live? Should I live on post? Should I live off post? What's the housing like on post? Is the commissary okay? Or is it just as expensive as shopping out in town? Are there different locations on post that I need to try to avoid? If I can I get on the Air Force housing? Can I get into the Navy housing? What are all of the different options when it comes to looking out in town? They don't know what areas to look for or which areas to avoid, right? So somebody may come in to an area. Again, I'm going to bring it back up here to the Fort Hood or the Fort Lewis area. They may think, hey, I'll just go down and live in Puyallup, right? It's no big deal because the housing is cheaper. Or maybe I'll try to get up to Hillside in Tacoma. Uh, but that may not be the best choice for them. If they have kids, they're probably thinking about schools, right? And so, what are the school systems in the area that may be more advantageous for taking care of our kids? They may have different hobbies, and so you start talking and just ask them, hey, what do you like to get into? What does your family like to get into? Do you have your own transportation? Things of this nature. That way, you're kind of establishing and building this relationship that is going to last for probably 3 years, right? That incoming soldier, that warfighter, is going to have a relationship with that new organization for probably 3 years. And what you do on the front end is going to absolutely pay dividends on the back end and throughout the rest of their tenure while they're there. You know, Maybe it's a single soldier who's coming in and they don't have transportation. You may need to talk to them about what transportation is available on post. Are there buses? Are there vans? Can you call? Things of this nature, right? Maybe they don't even have a phone. I mean, that's doubtful in 2023, but yeah, I mean, you never know. So we do all these things on the front end. Of course, we go and we fill out the 5434. But that if that's all you do is fill out part three on your 5434, you're doing sponsorship a disservice. If you go and look, you're gonna see that soldier's contact info that they inputted. So reach out to them on the phone. Like, don't wait. Reach out to them on the phone and start having those conversations. Reach out to them via email and say, hey, here's my point of contact. Now, if somebody's coming from AIT, they may not have the ability or even to know that they need to check their emails. And so, again, that's why you shoot them a message on the phone, give them a call, because odds are they are not checking their emails, just like a lot of junior enlisted service members do not check their email on a regular basis because they don't have access to a nipper machine unless they go to a library or something. So you have to be proactive. You have to get after this and stop and end the cycle of piss poor sponsorship. I'll just come out and say it. Too many organizations have a sponsorship program that is broken. And the only time that there's ever a Band-Aid that's applied to it is if somebody reports to a duty station, gets into that reception and says, I don't have a sponsor. Then, that sponsorship that reception company's first sergeant is going to let the Corps, CSM know, and it's all going to trickle downhill from there. And then your first sergeant's going to get beat up. Your S1 and your CSM are going to tell you to get a sponsor down there and get it fixed. And then everybody's going to say, oh, well, we got it fixed. And then, a month down the road, we're having this exact same conversation. So if you're a platoon sergeant, man, you should know because you should be the one who's engaging in the dialogue with your first sergeant of, here's who I need. If the first sergeant says, hey, I need a sponsor for so and so, a good first sergeant is just not going to input in a sponsor. You're going to talk to the platoon sergeant and say, I have a soldier who's coming to you. Here's their MOS. Here's their rank. Here's their demographics and everything else. And say, who do you want to be the sponsor for this trooper? And then that platoon sergeant gives them up. And it's too easy to take that info, get it in ACT, and then let the system begin to move. But as a platoon sergeant, you should know and be following up, because this is a soldier that you're going to receive. And if you don't receive them the right way, and if you don't get them moving in the right direction and say, these are the areas you should avoid, these are the things that you should do, these are the DFAC or chow hall hours, this is where everything's laid out, this is all the stuff to do out in town, and as it may relate to your hobbies, your interests, etc., then what's going to happen is that soldier is going to get into a clique with another group of soldiers that you do not want them to be involved in. All because you set the stage for that to happen. Now, I've been fortunate in some cases and less than fortunate in others. And so I want to try to flip the script here, if you will, on what you can do as a soldier who's moving into a new location. I had a great sponsor when I went to Hawaii, Specialist Ritter, man. That dude was outstanding. He really took care of me, and I was welcomed into the team really good. And that was a long time ago. But what I've learned since then, especially as a non-commissioned officer, is, yes, sponsorship is important, and hopefully the unit's reaching out. But what you need to do as an NCO is flip the tables. You need to engage in contact with that first sergeant. If you're a staff sergeant, if you are a sergeant first class or above, you should be reaching out directly to that battalion command sergeant major and saying, here I am, I'm coming to you. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to train and lead soldiers. Maybe I have some short-term goals or long-term goals. Like, I don't want to be a platoon sergeant. I want to be a first sergeant. I've done platoon sergeant time the last 2 or 3 years. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to expand my horizons and maybe work in some staff, which I have not had the opportunity to do. But whatever it is, man, I am here to serve in the greatest capacity that I can for the organization, for the team. When you do that, you're going to find, odds are, like I've found for myself, that I got those opportunities because I raised my hand and said, I'm coming, I'm hungry, this is what I'm looking for. If there's an opportunity to do it, here I am, send me. Here's my NCOER, here's my SRBs or ERB, whatever their talent worksheet, whatever we're calling it these days. Here's a bio. Here's some of my things I've done in the past. Here's some short and long-term goals that I have moving forward. You're going to find that if you initiate contact like that, again, whether it's talking directly with that first sergeant or, again, if you're a senior, you should be directing those conversations to the CSM as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody's going to think negatively on you if you do that. And if they do, shame on them. But that's just a few things I hope add some value into the sponsorship program of what we can do from the individual level all the way to being that first sergeant as far as how to manage this program, right? What can we do to make it efficient? What can we do to make it a higher quality program? And what are some of the things that we can do if we're on the incoming side to reach out? And look, man, if you're a specialist and you're PCSing, man, email that first sergeant. That's cool. Like, I've received emails from junior enlisted soldiers. Maybe some of them had some questions about the area or about the sponsorship, if there was a problem because they couldn't get in touch with somebody or they just wanted to introduce themselves. I think it's outstanding when somebody initiates contact. Man, I know something about, I'm making assumptions about this individual, and they're already establishing trust with me when they do that. So do the same for yourself. But let me know what you think down in the comments below as we continue to keep this conversation rolling. As always, until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.